Welcome to the Learning Can't Wait podcast, a Full Mind production. At Full Mind, our vision is to ensure every child has access to an exceptional education. Each episode, we will be joined by pathfinders within and around the education space who are bringing about transformational change on behalf of deserving students. I am your host, Hayley Spira-Bauer. Welcome back, everybody, to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. It is always a special episode when we have a current school leader joining us on the podcast. I'm especially thrilled to introduce Shane Purdy, an assistant superintendent in Georgia, to the podcast audience. Welcome, Shane.
Hey, glad to be here. Good to see you again.
Super glad you're here. And also, full disclosure, Shane is a friend of Full Mind and has been speaking the good word about Full Mind across the country for a while, which is super interesting because Shane, you as a leader have actually not yet implemented Full Mind yourself, but you just believe in the work. So is that accurate? Would you say that's an accurate statement?
Well, yes, we actually just bought tutoring.
I know that's true, but prior to the recent purchase,
that's right.
You had just been kind of being an evangelist before being a user. Is that accurate?
Very much so. Yes.
And I say that to say, transparency is a value that I hold dearly. And so while we record this episode, you're sharing thoughts that you've kind of held about education in general. And this is not, as I said jokingly, this is not a Full Mind infomercial, but super glad to have your perspective as someone who is innovative and thinks outside the box when it comes to education, especially in rural America. Mm-hmm. So Shane, you're going to start us off by telling everybody, how did you come to be the personal and professional version of yourself?
Wow. So here we go. Personally, I need a sofa so I can lay out and I can just, give my...
Yeah, I'm like drumming on the side of the armchair.
Exactly. I need, yes, all these issues that happened in my backgrounds to make me who I am today, right? But no, my dad is a minister. And he started off as an educator and went into ministry and was very successful in it. And I was in athletics all throughout. We moved a lot like ministers do. So the family, we packed up and moved in multiple places. I lived in Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, many places in Georgia. And in athletics, I'll go back to that. It shaped me in many ways too. And it's all going to come out in some of these answers, I'm sure. But I always throw that out there because of the determination, the responsibility, all those factors. And my parents embarrassingly met with all my teachers every single year, even in high school. And it was so embarrassing. But every single teacher always told them, according to my mother and dad, that I was a leader. I was the leader of the group. No matter what school I was in, no matter where I lived, I always ended up being the leader. And I don't know how that happened or whatever else, but it just happened. So professionally, here we go. I was an English teacher and started off as an English teacher and taught AP English, loved it, and thought I would be there forever and just coach football and basketball and teach AP and, be the English department chair. That was about it. And then all of a sudden things just started rolling and I became an assistant principal and athletic director. And then I became a principal. And from there, I've been assistant superintendent a couple of times and I've been assessment and accountability director and HR director and operations. So I've kind of done it all, but I love people. And the one thing that really struck with me was watching my dad as a minister. He really is passionate about people and making them feel good somehow, some way, and making them become better human beings. And that is mine kind of went into the educational part. Yes, you're trying to make people better people of who they are, but you're also trying to make them go places that they never thought that they could achieve. And seeing that light bulb go off when you're teaching something has always been my passion. It still is my passion. When I see that, whether it's with a kid or an adult, and you see them go, wow, I just stepped in territory I did not think I could accomplish. And you go,
yeah,
And that just, I mean, if that doesn't rev your engine, I don't know what can. So that's me.
Wow. The overlap that you're kind of describing between the purpose your dad has had as a minister and then that educators have is one that I feel like I haven't dove deeply enough into with guests, but you've described it in such a way that it makes it so obvious to me, just like helping kids actualize themselves, which is very much what ministers try to do as well, and like help people actualize who they're meant to be. That's really cool. Do you think that your background has really informed, like traveling around, just giving you this mindset of wanting to take the very best from everywhere you've been? Like, talk to me a little bit about what it was like growing up and going to lots of schools. I feel like that's very interesting as well.
Um, it's kind of weird. It's so sometimes my dad always said, be careful with the first people who come out and meet you. He
Hmm.
said, it's much like church.
Hmm.
The first ones who say, buddy, I've got your back and whatever else are the first ones to try to stab you in the back
Ooh.
sometimes. So, it was very true in school. The people that came and tried to want me to be in their friend group or their clique or whatever were ones that you found out quickly. All right, so they put a good front on, but then you realize this isn't the kind of person I want to be around. And so,
Mm.
the ones who you want to be, who you seem to be attracted to want to be around, were usually the ones that were quiet and they stood back and they were watching you to see if you mixed with them, which was, it became more and more true. The older I became, I saw that. So, it, you end up finding that group of people that, we all do. We find, they say snakes find snakes. Well, I think good people find good people too.
I
So,
love that. You described what your teacher said of you having a natural leadership quality, and I
mhm.
find that really interesting. My parents had a lot of those reports growing up from me as well, and it's something I think about now that I'm raising my own kids. Like, what do you do when your kid doesn't have that? Right? Like, how do you, as a parent or as an educator, and this is me just like spitballing here with you. I know there's no right answer, Shane, but given your time in schools and time as a parent, do you have a way that you try to support students that maybe don't get that report from teachers or like help even teachers to become better leaders? Sometimes it's not innate. Sometimes it has to be taught and grown.
So, all right, I'll tell you one thing that we do at our school. Whenever I was principal, I just stepped out of the principalship on these last couple of years before I retired. Um, I created this thing. I wanted an individual learning plan for every student in our school.
Ooh, say more.
So
Yes.
we knew what every kid's interest was. We had an advisement period every single day, and my teachers had scripts they had to go by to actually know their kids and
Mm.
know how to push those kids. So whether their interests were in this and that and the other. And I also had club day every Wednesday, or every Wednesday was club day. So clubs, don't think of like FFA and FCA and all, FBLA, and it's not that so much. It's basically enrichment type classes. We had a Pinterest club, we had a book reading club, we had a science club, we had all these different things all over the school, and you signed up on this Google form and you went to them. So every Wednesday you went to a different club. So 4 Wednesdays a month, you went to 4 different clubs. Well, the teachers had to sign up for what they were most passionate about. So the kids got to see the teachers, what their passion was, and
Yeah.
the teachers got to create these relationships with kids that the kids normally would never have, because when you're sitting in chemistry class, you don't care who that teacher is so much. And the teacher really, I hate saying it, doesn't really get to know who every single kid is in the room either and all their
Yeah.
interests are. So you get to know all these kids, and it created a really nice bond in our school. So,
Oh my
uh,
gosh, that's so beautiful. This idea that really great educators always bring up first of relationships are the foundation of great and excellent
they are.
classrooms and school buildings. You actually carve out time for it. I think what's always beautiful is like when a leader like you talks about the practical, carving out time for it, making it a priority. I'm sure that the impact was felt, but you didn't stop there. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Georgia Bavarian project you had? Because I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another example of focusing on character and humanity over just drilling academics, but then the benefits can be seen.
So the Department of Education reached out to me asking if we would have any interest in teaming up with a school in Germany. And I said, "What's the purpose?" And so he told me, you know, look at your community, what you have, and then we'll match it up with something over in Germany. So I said, well, we're agrarian. I'm like, we are all agriculture. And so they found an agricultural community, and it was in the Bavarian community part of Germany. And we started Zooming with them probably once a week, and we got to know each other. And then all of a sudden, we as leaders, the superintendent, myself, some other people, we took a trip over there. Our agriculture teachers, and we all took a trip over there for about a week. And they showed us, and they wined and dined us. They took us all over the place, and we got to see everywhere that they would take our kids. And we stayed. Their education is so different over there. They actually live on campus,
Wow.
and kids can go like you're chosen, like you choose your path in about second or third grade of what path you're going to go, whether it's going to be off to college. So your parents are really choosing for you,
Mm.
or whether you're going to go into the workforce. And so they get you workforce ready. And it is amazing. I mean, they have the best equipment, they have the best stuff. So we stayed in a place that was like, I call it the IKEA apartment, uh, IKEA dorm room. It looked like IKEA threw up all in it, but it was very nice. It was very, very nice. But we stay in touch with them. They send people over to our school system. We send people over to their school system, and we're learning how they do agriculture. Of course, theirs is barley, and they make a lot of beer over there in that area. And then so our kids learn to go over there and do that, and then their kids come over and they learn South Georgia cotton and peanuts and whatever it is, corn,
I'm
whatever else we.
laughing. It's like I'm signing a permission slip as a parent. Your child is going to Germany to learn how to make beer. Are you okay with that? No, but the cross-cultural exchange is really special, and you're bringing up another point that I am so excited to dig into. That program sounds incredible, and rural America is such a special place.
It
Can you
is.
talk a little bit about your experience working and living in rural America, rural Georgia, and what you think has been uniquely challenging for the community that you live and work in?
Yeah. So the town I live in, or the town I work in, is in the southwestern corner of Georgia. We touch Alabama and we touch Florida,
Hmm.
and it is all agriculture and a lot of gnats. Um, and so you're constantly waving your hand, and people wave to you. So everybody's very friendly, but really we're just waving gnats away. Um, but the school system is very small. There's only around approximately about 100 kids per grade level, and it has decreased. Actually, it stayed the same over the last 6 years, but before that, it was decreasing by about 25 a year, 25 kids a year. Um, People were just leaving and going to different places, but now things have changed and it's really increasing again. But um, it's tough. It is very tough because think about it. How many 20 something year olds want to graduate from college and say,
Mhm.
oh, I want to move there? The nearest thing we can sell is 30A, which is, the beach down there on the panhandle side of Florida. And that is an hour and a half, 2 hours away. That's the
Mm,
nearest thing we can sell
right.
to a young kid that wants to, go into teaching, unless they live there, unless they're given land there. But
Hmm.
otherwise, that is a humongous hurdle. So the way I look at it is teachers are in three tiers: 0 to 10 years, 11 to 20 years, and 21 to 30 years. You get to retire at 30 years in Georgia.
Mm.
Many of the teachers in our school system are in the upper tier, 21 to 30 years. So in the next 5 years, we will see a mass exodus out of the school system, and I don't know what's going to happen because we're having a TAP, we call it Georgia TAP program, where we can get people who have a degree in another field, but they want to go into teaching. We can get people to go over and do that, but sometimes they're just trying to fill a void sometimes between jobs.
Right.
And their passion may not be what mine was whenever I went into the program in college and graduated with that. It may be just,
Mm,
I'm just trying to make some money, or I want to try this field out for a while and I may go back to the business world. It's, it's a different setup, and that is a humongous hurdle.
okay, that is a huge hurdle. And what are you going to do? Like, what do you think your district is going to lean on to sustain high quality education for kiddos?
My superintendent is a very forward thinking, and he doesn't mind thinking outside the box. He's very instructionally sound as a leader. And that's why we have been together for so long and we've known each other for so long. He believes in me and I believe in him. And we have very similar viewpoints in that regard. And 5 years ago, we took a Spanish teacher virtually. Um, and we have continued with a Spanish teacher virtually
Hmm.
because we could not get any. But it's either that or we could do like the other small little school districts around us, and they just quit offering foreign language. Well, I don't think that's fair to the kid. We're here to
No.
serve the kid. It's not because, oh, well, we just don't have one. No, 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 no. You find a way to make it happen if that's what the kid
Right.
wants.
And
So,
that, I mean, and this is like, the origin story of your, they say like your villain origin story, but I'll call it your full mind origin story. That was probably your
mhm.
first exposure to virtual education. Is that accurate?
It was. We started with one company that you may be very familiar with now, and we went to a independent person who wanted to just after COVID, she wanted to just stay home. She
Yeah.
didn't want to go back to a school, and she wanted to teach high school. So we gave her that opportunity, and we thought she was well, yeah. So here we are now. But we're going to have the same issue with AP classes, with
Yeah.
higher level classes. I mean, you're just not finding those teachers anymore.
Yeah. I just this morning recorded an episode with Dr. Melissa Sador from NREA. And
Hmm.
the episode's called, her podcast called The Rural Scoop. And we talked about like what are the biggest challenges. And obviously I do what I do for a living because I believe that we have to be innovative and think outside the box, and I think there's better ways to support our school districts. And so many schools are deciding not to go this route or not to try solutions they previously would have tried. And the people who suffer are kids, right? They're the ones who, when we limit what we're willing to implement, they're the ones who don't get the diverse, expansive educational experience. So
Hmm.
it is unfortunate, and Seminole County, where you work, is not the only school district facing this challenge, right? This
No.
is everywhere in America.
Yeah, I was even talking to one of my friends. She was a she's a retired principal of one of the largest high schools in the state of Georgia, in the largest county in the state of
Yeah.
Georgia, Gwinnett County. And she told me, she said, Shane, in Gwinnett County, we have to be creative by period. So we may need a chemistry teacher or a physics teacher, but there's no one around that wants to teach it. So
Mm,
we will find people that work in the field where they're a chemist or a physicist or whatever, and we will hire them for one period a day. So we
right.
contract them for one period. So it's not just rural, it's even the
Yes,
city of
I
Atlanta.
agree totally. I mean, I worked in New York City for my whole school-based career
Mm,
in Harlem and the South Bronx, and
wow.
similar challenges. I always say there's a very big overlap in the Venn diagram of urban and rural, even though it
Mhm.
feels so very different. There's a very big overlap in the Venn diagram. Okay,
Very
so I
true.
made you get a little dark. I made you talk about like what you have as a barrier to everyday success or challenges that you face. What has you really hopeful about education right now?
What am I hopeful about right now in education? Hold on, let me think about this.
You're like really warming up your answer. It's not that you can't find one. It's just that you really want to give us your best. I love that.
Mm. I'll tell you one thing. I do like what's going on a little bit. Our Georgia Department of Education, they were hiring before a lot of retired teachers
Mm,
because the money they make, you can make more in a school system than you can sometimes working for the Department of Education.
hmm.
So they have done a great job of recruiting people that out of the school system that were, hey, this is a budding star. Let's get this one for math or science or English or some type of CTAE type. And they have done that. Well, now they're being a little bit more innovative and a little more forward thinking and thinking outside the box on what kind of courses we can offer to kids that are more interesting and not just the same old, same old, same old that the kids have gone through forever. I do like that. I do think we need to be more forward thinking, though, in the future in our school systems and think about offering education almost around the clock and letting people work shifts. And,
Mm.
and it just, people have, some people are night owls, some people like early mornings, some people, and, they have the traditional sports and such as, things where you have competitions after school. You can still make those hours up. I think we have to think about our customer and what
Yeah,
suits them
the
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 most.
flexibility, the inflexibility of the profession of education is a huge sticking point for so many educators.
Mhm.
Like folks that have to take off a full day when they have to take their kid to a doctor's appointment,
Yes.
or they want to go to their, you get invited in to see your kid read their story in the classroom, and you're either not attending and your kid's sitting there by themselves, or you're taking, a half day to see your child, even if half days are allowed. Like it requires a lot of sacrifice to be an educator. And we sure know this isn't the most lucrative profession in the world. So we
No.
we have to make up for that somewhere.
Right. We do. We do. I just hope the finances will be there in the future. I I don't know if they're doing this in every state, but I think I know we're doing it in Georgia. They just now passed laws where the money of a kid, let's just say it costs $6,000 for a kid. You get $6,000 for a kid to be at your school through FTE money. Well, now if a kid wants to transfer to a charter school or a private school, that $6,000 goes with that child to the charter or private school.
Mhm.
So I call it the slow dismantling of public education, or in older people's terms, it's the new segregation. It's just socioeconomic and not
Mhm.
just by race.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, there are a lot of headwinds right now against the public education system.
mhm.
And to your point, it's a reinvention of what we've seen before. And so the recommitment of caring and compassion and passion for this work is even more important than it was
Yeah.
yesterday.
Well, what bothers me about all of it is these kids that we have been able to educate for free for years have been intertwined with kids that may have more opportunities, right?
Hmm.
They've been in the same school with other kids. Well, if we continue this trend of what's going on right now, these kids will only be around their own.
Hmm.
And these kids are not going to be acclimated to things that are outside of their own little world. And to me, that takes that aha moment, that light bulb going off, and all those things of like, oh, I really can be this. Oh, I really can be that. And they're not ever going to think they can be anymore
Yeah.
because you got to think about if you're a really good teacher and you had a choice between a charter, public, or private, if this continues, and you know what the public school is going to have, where's the really good teacher going to go?
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I just don't want the service of what public education has done. I don't want it to go away because I think it's helped so many kids break cycles of you know of things that have hurt, that have held back their families or whatever else. I think it's brought some kids out of this of those cycles, and I
Yeah.
don't want it to stop.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your fervor for this topic, and I know it's an important one to so many that are listening right now. Shane, I'm curious about a total different kind of dichotomy switch here, but
Yeah.
when you think about what you've seen in Georgia, what you've seen in Germany, what you've seen all over the places that you moved in education, what is like your single best example of education done right? Can you think of like a time or a story that you just looked at what was happening and said, "Oh, this is what it's supposed to be like public education at its best."
Mm. All right. So I took this job in Seminole. I left a HR operations job in another district, and the boss that I have now said, "Hey, listen, I need you to come down here and get this school, like shred it down and build it the way you want." I said, "I will do it with all of my past of all the different things I've tried at different schools because I felt like I went to a lot of schools of to be the cleanup guy." And I've started new things, but I never got to really see them through. And I said, I want to see this through. So give me some time. You've got to give me support from the board, your board members, whatever else, because I'm going to really do some major changes. Okay. And he said, okay, I trust you. So I went in there and we made, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but my wife is, and the houses of Harry Potter or whatever. And if you've ever heard of Ron Clark Academy, I think he has houses in
Or
his,
have, yeah.
yeah. So we have houses, but we are the Indians, Seminole County Indians. So we called them tribes. And we had Indian nations because tribes made up nations. So we use the actual nation names like alligator and toad and horse and snake and weird names, but we created them alphabetically. And they would have all these competitions throughout the course of the year. And throughout the course of the year, these competitions, it may be like the most people that are actively involved in sports, the most people who have the least, the best attendance, who have the best grades, who have da 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 da. So each house was competing and they got points and we would put them on the screens in the hallways and they got to see who was leading after each 9 weeks. Well, when we did that at the end of the year, we had a nations competition. So they actually had where we'd say, okay, now the longest drive, go out to the football field and you'll hit golf balls and you can take two people out there with you to cheer you on. We have tug of war contest. We have a reading contest. We have a chemistry lab contest. We have a, math equation contest, all these things all over the school. And people were going to all this stuff. We give out this humongous trophy. Well, what they didn't realize, the kids never realized, was all these things they were doing. We have a thing called CCRPI as a report card that each school gets, and it's based on all of these different areas that you can build point. That gives you more points for your school to be rated higher in Georgia. Everything we did was building up those points, whether
Mm.
it was content knowledge, whether it was graduation rate, whatever it was. All these things were building points for CCRPI, but they were just having fun competing against each other. And they were doing houses, and they carried out this big, humongous trophy at the end, the last week of school, and we have a big trophy presentation when signing day, and for all the kids going to college. So we wanted to show that in this little bitty small town, look how many people go to college or the armed forces or whatever else, and we applaud them. And then we talk about all our accolades that we won in every single area of the school when we went out and competed, whether it's in literary or whatever it may have been. And we bring their trophies out. We show them, show the school, this is what you can be part of too. So the whole school got to see this at the end of the year. And I'm telling you, our CCRPI, we jumped 10 points in 3 years. 10
Wow.
points in 3 years. So, I mean, to me, that was the coolest thing. I got to see something through. In 3 years, we got to see that thing just explode. And we became the best school in all of Southwest Georgia as far as numbers go.
That's
We went
so
from
cool. And
middle
I bet
to,
the kids loved it. And I bet you had
they
higher
did.
attendance, right? Kids
Yes.
want to show
Yes.
up for school. They're motivated and excited. I love that.
Yes. And they had mentors in the school and everything else. So the seniors mentored the freshmen and all that other stuff.
Oh,
It was so neat. We had meetings where they'd meet, and it was just, that was the coolest thing I think you could ever see in a school. Watching that, but I stole from Ron Clark Academy. My brother went to a private school because they recruited him for athletics, my youngest brother. And so I did my long-term subbing there my senior year. Well, they had every Wednesday, they would have a meeting, a school-wide assembly, and they would honor people that were doing great things, whether, all the kids that made 1,600 on the SAT, a girl that was going to do a piano recital that was, I mean, it was not like a regular little piano recital. It was major. And she could play a piano. But everyone got to see all these cultural things. And then they would have a
Mm.
guest speaker. Well, I'm like, why can't we do this in public?
I
Why
think
can't
good
we do it?
teaching is stealing. I think good educational practices are stealing. And that's why I like this podcast. Because now
Yes.
somebody might hear this and steal it.
I love it. I just talked to all the new principals for the state of Georgia, I think 2 weeks ago, about that whole nations thing, and how you drive up attendance and graduation rate and all that. And
I love it.
I'm passionate about it. It's
All
fun.
right. So you have to give a final word now, Shane, and tell everybody that's listening, what advice would you give a new leader starting their career today?
Never forget where you came from. Never forget what it was like as a teacher, what it was like as a student. My whole deal, whenever a kid walks in, I want them what they are an adult. What do they feel? What do they see? Um, and I want it to be like a high school movie every time they walk in my building. I want it to feel that way. I play music in the hallways in between classes. You may see kids out there dancing with teachers, like doing the slide, the electric slide, or whatever else. And we did it. But I think if you can remember that, what drove you to this position? What drove you to be so good at what you were that someone recognized you as a leader and they said, "Hey, this person, he or she would be a good principal." Go back to your roots. Mine is that girl sitting in front of me and did not have much at all. And whenever she got something right that she didn't think she could get right, and that light bulb went off, and I told her she can be this, and you see this just swelling up with pride. It brings tears to your eyes. It brings the hair stand up on the back of your neck. That right there is why I'm in this thing. That's why I'll never forget that little girl and how
Shane
she felt.
Purdy, what an honor to be able to interview you and hear these stories and what drives you. Thank you so much for coming on the Learning Can't Wait podcast today.
Thank you for asking me.
Of course.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Thanks for listening to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share this episode. Be the first to know when we have a new episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a suggestion for an episode, email us at podcast@fullmindlearning.com.